We have an exciting event planned this evening with our speaker, Rahima Mohammed. But before we get started, I'd like to thank our media partners of this year, Islam Channel, and give a special welcome to those joining us from Islam Channel's Facebook and YouTube. It's a pleasure to have you with us today. I'd also like to thank Arts Council UK for helping us allow us to continue this work over Ramadan, all of which is available on our website. Our work this Ramadan is supported by Islamic Relief, our charity partner. You can check out the incredible work Islamic Relief does at iruk.co/RTP. Our event is interactive, so I'd like to encourage everybody to hop onto the Zoom meeting, and for those who feel comfortable, to turn on your camera so we can see you and we can interact with you. And a quick run on the tech: at the bottom of your screen or in the More section, you have the reaction button. So you can show us how you feel in real time, and you can also raise your hand. So if you want to ask any questions or add to the discussions, we can unmute you. Also, you have the live chat. We'll be checking the live chat. But first, I kind of just want to know a little bit more about how all your Ramadans are going. So Shireen, how's your Ramadan going? You can unmute yourself.
Alhamdulillah, it's been going well. Having to work from home and fast is a new experience, but definitely more flexibility. Yeah, it's been good.
What do you have planned for your Iftar?
I don't know, actually. My dad is cooking tonight, so I have to go and check after.
Mysterious.
Yeah.
That's fair. How's Ramadan been going so far over the last so many days?
Yeah, like I said, it's been a pretty interesting one, obviously, with working from home. But I've tried to make the atmosphere at home as similar as possible to previous years. Yeah, it's been really interesting.
Do you think it's been harder or easier since you've been working from
home? Possibly. Actually, I honestly don't know. It's new challenges. Yeah,
that's true.
Challenges from usual. Yeah,
that's true.
What about you? How's it been for you?
It hasn't been too bad, but like over the weekend. So I'm going to be flying. I'm in Sweden right now, but I'm going to be flying back to London tomorrow. So I decided for some odd reason to go hiking today around the woods near my house, and bad decision, but here we are. But I think overall Ramadan this year has been pretty good, alhamdulillah. Like I think you have more time to do things even though you're doing your usual activities every day.
Yeah. Interesting.
What about you, Kulsum? How's your Ramadan going? What do you have planned for Iftar?
Assalamualaikum.
Alaikum.
It's going well, alhamdulillah. My brother is cooking, so I'm hoping it's something nice. I think he's making pasta or something. But I don't know yet. I think he's in the kitchen now cooking. But yeah.
How are things going now that we're reaching the last 10 days?
I guess it's like always sad to see Ramadan go, but yeah, it's been good, alhamdulillah. I think I've kind of like found a bit of a balance now. But it's still like tricky, I guess, with like everything going on and like not having the usual like Ramadan experience of what we would normally experience before the pandemic. But yeah, it's been good, alhamdulillah.
I definitely think that Eid this year is going to be interesting. But everything kind of opens up straight after Eid. So yeah, I think you missed the community element a little bit, unfortunately.
Yeah. How is it in Sweden?
So I spent it with my two siblings, so it isn't too bad. But I definitely think this is the reason why I've come back to London. I kind of miss having my parents around because it's usually always with them.
Yeah.
So, yeah, slightly different experience, but it's a good one nonetheless. Alhamdulillah. What about you, Rayhan? How's your Ramadan going?
Yeah, alhamdulillah, it's been good. Not too bad. I think being able to work from home has helped not be too tiring. And yeah, it's good. It's gone quickly. I always think every year it's going to go quickly, and it does. But then I'm always still surprised when it does.
Yeah, that's true. What do you have planned for Iftar?
Nachos for Iftar, and then dinner, I'm not sure. I think just leftovers, to be honest.
That's very good. A solid
Yeah.
concoction.
Yeah.
Amazing. So I'm going to introduce our speaker today and our discussion. So today we're going to be discussing recognizing the Uyghur genocide, and we'll be discussing it with our speaker, Rehana Mahmood. Rehana is a Uyghur singer, human rights activist, and an award-winning translator of the prison memoir, The Land Drenched in Tears by Soygul Chanshif. Sorry if I pronounce that correctly. Her recent works include working as a consultant and translator for the ITV documentary Undercover Inside China's Digital Gulag, shown in July 2019, and she's translated for the BBC documentary China, A New World Order. As an interpreter, she's heard many first-hand account of the Uyghur population and their experience in internment and the loss of family. And she's currently the director of the World Uyghur Congress in the UK and the advisor of the Interparliamentary Alliance on China. Assalamu alaikum, Rehana. It's a real pleasure to have you. Thank you for joining us. If you could just tell us a bit more about your work. How's your Ramadan going so far?
Walaikum Assalam. First of all, my name is Rahima, not Rahana.
Apologies, I'm so sorry for that.
Don't
sorry,
worry.
it's Ramadan brain.
Yeah, I'm sure everyone is tired by now. Yeah, all going well. It's very fast. I mean, this month's gone very fast because of very busy schedules that I have. So thank you so much for inviting me to speak and to give you more insight about what is happening to my people from my own personal perspective. I'm Uyghur myself, and I find a lot of people find it very difficult to pronounce that because of Rei we have Uyghur. But I know a lot of people say Uyghur, that's fine. And Uyghurs are Turkic Muslims. Our language is very similar to the Uzbek language. The origin is Turkic. So I can communicate with Turkish and Azerbaijani and other Turkic people from the Turkic origin background. I was born and brought up in a large religious and musical family. My father he came from a very religious background, and my mother, generations of my great-grandfathers, they were musicians. Since the time I was born and I left China in 2000, from my childhood, I know that we Uyghurs were not free, I remember when I was little, my parents and when my brothers and my elder siblings, when they prayed, they had to lock the gate from inside. And my father often told the little ones that do not tell others that we prayed. If you do, police will come and take me away. So from that age, I believe I was only 4 or 5. I know that certain things you cannot say to people. And only later I learned that was the latter years of the Cultural Revolution. I don't know how much you know about Chinese history. Since the establishment of the Chinese Communist Party government, 1949, and also that was the time that my country, I call it East Turkestan, and the Chinese government call it Xinjiang, or Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region. So since the occupation, the persecution of the Uyghurs and the other minorities never stopped from the time the invasion. And in 1955, although the CCP agreed to give the autonomous status, it named a region Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region. Uyghur people don't like Xinjiang, name of Xinjiang. It is not in Uyghur language. It is Chinese, and it is a colonial name. Xin means new, Jiang means territory or frontier. Although Chinese government often claim that Xinjiang, the so-called Xinjiang, is historically part of China, but the name itself, the colonial name itself, it gives away that East Turkestan was not historically part of China. And if I go back, just give a little bit of background, the region was occupied during the Qing dynasty. And until 1949, the Chinese population, the Han Chinese population was very small. According to the CCP census, in 1949, the entire Han Chinese population was about 4 to 5%. And the rest are the Uyghurs and other Turkic Muslims, and also some other minorities. And as I said, in 1955, although the region was named as Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region, by law, according to the Chinese constitution, that Uyghurs have the full rights to speak the language, practice our religion, and celebrate our cultural tradition. But since 1958, the rightist movement started. Then throughout the Cultural Revolution until Mao Zedong, or Chairman Mao, died in 1976. Many, I would say, up to 1 million were killed during the Cultural Revolution and various other political purges, mostly targeting the religious figures and intellectuals and the young generation of Uyghurs. The aim of the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party, was very clear. They want to assimilate the Uyghur people. So for the Uyghur, become just like a Han Chinese. That's how they did to many other ethnic groups in the past. After Mao died, the new leadership declared that the Cultural Revolution was a mistake. So reinstalled the freedom of religion, and Uyghurs had the a much better freedom. And during the 80s, and that's my primary school years, and also the secondary school up until I went to university, we enjoyed relatively better freedom compared to the 60s and 70s. And so I started university in 1987 and 1989. The student democratic movement started in Beijing. I was one of many thousands of students joined the student movement in Tiananmen Square. I left the square on the 2nd of June, and 4th of June, the student massacre that happened. So a lot of people often ask me about my activism. In fact, I would say my activism started actually in 1989. Although I wasn't the organizer, I was just one of many tens of thousands of participants of that students' democratic movement. And my understanding about the Chinese Communist Party, deeper understanding started then because many thousands of Chinese and other minority students who demanded democracy and freedom were crushed. You might remember that famous picture of the tank there's one student who stood in front of the tank. So using the military crushed the student movement. So since then, the situation became worse throughout China. Whenever the situation, especially human rights situation, worsened in China, that affects the worst effect parts are the regions that the so-called autonomous regions, like Tibet Autonomous Region and the Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region. From the early 90s, new wave of crackdown started again. And in 1997, in Gulja, on the 5th of February, Gulja protest, which ended up as, I call it, Gulja massacre. I was visiting my family from a town where I was working as a teacher at a college. And on that day, thousands of Uyghur youth took to the street, peacefully demanding religious freedom and cultural freedom. Because prior to that protest, for 3 months, Chinese government carried out a religious crackdown, imprisoning and detaining mostly young religious clerics. So on the 5th of February, that was the 17th of Ramadan in 1997, the Uyghur youth, mostly very religious people, and took to the street. So the Chinese Communist government, they always crack down the peaceful protesters, deploying military, and similarly, they killed over 100 protesters on the day, then followed by mass arrest, which lasted many weeks. And I left after my winter holiday. Later, I learned up to 4,000 to 5,000 Uyghurs were arrested, accused of separatism or any kind of sort of violence or religious extremism. That was the event that led me to leave my country in 2000. It took me 3 years to find a way to get passport and then to obtain a visa as a student to come here to study in 2000. And since the day I arrived here, I have been telling people in every different platform about who are Uyghurs, Uyghur people, and what is happening to the Uyghurs. And I always hoped that one day I will be able to go home and visit my family. I have 9 siblings, and they all big families and extended families. When I left, my mother was still alive, and she died in 2013. I was unable to visit or attend funeral. So since I came here in 2000, I didn't go back because of my activism. But at least I was able to speak to my siblings almost every week over the phone. But that was cut short in January 2017. So from 2016 in October time, I couldn't get through to anyone. All my sisters, my brothers, their children, my friends, everyone, whenever I called, no one would answer my phone call. In the end, on the 3rd of January, when I repeatedly called my eldest brother, who is father figure to me, and he answered his phone after I called numerous times. And when he answered the phone, normally as Muslims, even the little children, when they pick up the phone, always say Assalamu alaikum. But my brother said, wait. Before that, I learned there was a rumor that this even Assalamu alaikum was banned and the Uyghurs, not all the Muslims, are not allowed to greet one another. And I didn't believe, I thought maybe people were exaggerating. How is it possible? You know, this is a very basic, that greetings that everyone use every single day. But when my brother answered the call, not saying Assalamu alaikum, I was very, very shocked. And then when I asked him, I didn't dare to greet him after he answered the call. All I said was, why no one is answering their phone? And he said, they did the right thing. And then he said, please leave us in God's hands, and we leave you in God's hands too. And his voice was trembling. I could hear as if like a police was present there. It was just like a sort of, they were terrified. And that was the last time I spoke to, anyone in my family, my eldest brother, and it's over 4 years now. Soon after that phone exchange, that phone call, and through my own interpreting work, translation work, that I know that situation was getting worse day by day, especially when a man called Chen Chuan-guo, who was a party secretary in Tibet for 5 years, he was transferred to the region, to the Uyghur region, and appointed to be party secretary and top man in the job in the so-called Xinjiang. And we know that the situation is going to get really bad because we know that for 5 years when he ruled the Tibet, he terrorized the Tibet. Yeah, and because I've been living here during that time, and I knew the news from Tibet and about what he has done to Tibetans. And it was a kind of sign that his appointment is going to bring a really terrible tragedy to the Uyghurs. And it is true, from the time he arrived in August, and so 2 months later, he banned people to communicate with their loved ones in abroad. That was why since October 2016, people suddenly stopped answering their calls when I phoned them, including my friends. And around April, we learned that the mass arrest started. We learned that police would just go to door and place black hood over these people's head and then just handcuff them and take them away. By August 2018, and we had enough concrete information through satellite images of these large concentration camps, and also some camp survivors, and also the expert reports about what is happening in the region. So in August 2018, the UN Assembly on Racial Discrimination openly criticized China that they're holding up to 1 million Uyghur and other Muslims in camps. China denied it immediately. They said that no such thing. After confronted with all the concrete, very hard evidence of those, as I said, the satellite images and many reports. Actually, a lot of reports was written after studying the CCP's own notice, own documents. And then 2 weeks later, they said, well, there is no a prison or internment camp. It is a re-education camp. We are teaching Uyghurs learn Chinese, and so they can so help them to get better employment. But later, Again, by the end of 2018, more information came out, far more. Then in 2019, November, we had a huge leak. One document was over 400 pages long, and that gave a very detailed information from China's own classified documents that they are interning the millions of Uyghurs. And the classified document read, comparing the Uyghurs as malignant tumor, they are the malignant tumor, and Islamic faith as mental disease. It has to be treated. It needs treatment. And it said you cannot uproot weeds one by one. You have to pour chemicals and kill them all. And Xi Jinping's many speech, and he said, show no mercy. And Chen Quanguo's speech repeated, round up whoever should be rounded up. And also in some of the speeches, it said, people can make mistakes, but we have the computer, the most top technology, and the technology won't make any mistakes. So speaking about technology, that since 2009, after the Urumqi massacre, the entire region it became police state. So basically everywhere, including the mosque, they all installed the camera. And no blind spot was left because they believed that all Uyghurs and other Muslims potentially terrorists. And from 2016, after this man Chen Quanguo took the power, he turned the East Turkestan a complete police state. So using the technology or so-called the a high-tech surveillance system. I'm not going to go into too much detail. So surveillance system to track everybody, and through the data that obtained from the people's movement, computer automatically select the names every single day. It pop out the names dangerous, suspicious, and normal. So red, yellow, and green. So any names that the red color, police can just anywhere they can arrest them and take them away. And also the yellow colored one as well, suspicious. So this is a kind of a way of criminalizing in order to intern as many Uyghur people as possible. They use this sophisticated technology in order to carry out its genocidal policy. Now I am talking about the genocide. As I'm sure you might have heard, the US government already declared what the CCP is doing to the Uyghurs and other Turkic Muslims, a genocide. Then later, Canadian Parliament and the Dutch Parliament also unanimously or majority declared it as genocide. And on the 22nd of April, this parliament, the UK Parliament, also unanimously declared what is happening to the Uyghurs as genocide. The reason the genocide word was used here is because after carefully studied all the available evidence from the survivors' accounts, we have a handful of survivors now living, some in Europe and some in US, and some in other countries, but they dare not to speak because of their because they don't feel safe. also as I said, the satellite image, and the sheer number of detained people, up to 3 million Uyghurs and other Turkic Muslims. And 500, according to the BBC report, more than 500,000 Uyghurs were transported to work in cotton fields and as forced labor. And this was about 2 years ago, but now we believe maybe more than 1 million Uyghurs are subjected to forced labor. And children were forcibly separated from their parents. And many of the children whose parents, one or both parents, detained in these torture camps are taken into the so-called state orphanages or state-run boarding schools. But in fact, it is also children's internment camps, because they have no freedom to see their family. They're not allowed to travel out of the camp. And we know since these atrocities started, this is according to the careful study, the referenced report, 16,000 mosques demolished, hundreds of Muslim graveyards destroyed, and millions of women faced forced sterilization, forced abortion, forced marriage to Han Chinese men. And this was all referenced with some top scholars like Dr. Adrian Zenz, who studied the Chinese own policy, and a report. I would recommend you to look at those reports. Only several months ago, one of the camp survivors, Gulbahar Khaitwaji, whose testimony was published on The Guardian, and she said, "They had tortured my body and brought my mind to the edge of madness. Women like me who emerged from the camp are no longer who we once were. We are shadows. Our souls are dead." And I worked also as a consultant and a translator for the documentary Undercover China's Digital Gulag by Robin Banwal. And I was horrified when a Chinese official was asked whether he felt Uyghurs' human rights were being violated. And he responded by saying, "They don't have human rights. It is not about violations. They just don't have human rights." This was a conversation between an undercover reporter and speaking to a Chinese official. And another conversation, the same undercover reporter spoke to another Chinese official in a bar, and he said, "We need a lot of mental hospitals, because these people, all these detained people, when they are out, they are mentally unstable." And I know from speaking to those survivors, and the aim of those camps, the so-called re-education camps, we believe it's a concentration camps, that it's to destroy the Uyghur people. And hopefully you have also watched the latest BBC report about the mass rape, that is systematic mass rape is happening in these camps against the Uyghur women. So why we believe this genocide, as I have just outlined very briefly about what is happening, I would invite you to read Essex Court Chamber's legal opinion. As you know, living in this country, Essex Court Chamber, the lawyers are top lawyers. After studied the thousands of personal testimonies and the reports analyzing all the information, the credible information available, and their legal opinion was that there is credible there is credible evidence that China CCP is carrying out genocide, and crime against humanity against the Uyghurs. And also the US New Line Institute report also given the exactly same conclusion. So I would like to stop here to give more time for people to ask questions. And thank you for listening.
Thank you, Rahima. We really appreciate your account. It was gut-wrenching. It really gave us a lot to think about. My first question is, given that this is all happening and the world has just kind of really woken up to the terrors that is like Uyghur internment and how China treats its Uyghur population, how do we as an international, like members of the international community help out, and how do we change something, make like a real meaningful change here?
Well, you mean the government or you mean the individuals? Obviously, government, we first of all, we have been campaigning for the governments to recognize this as genocide and fulfill its obligation under the Genocide Convention. So it was very important for this parliament to unanimously recognize it as genocide, but we still have to push the government to acknowledge what is happening and sanction individuals. We have our government, the UK, has sanctioned 4 individuals. Still not. It's when comparing the scale, what is happening is far little. To still need more sanctions individuals who are carrying out these atrocities, and also the trade. Business shouldn't be as usual. The government should reconsider its agreements, and when a state is carrying out genocide against one particular group, then the other governments must punish them, at least depriving the trade deals. So there are many, many things that government can do, and also cooperations. For example, the companies and the ASPI report stated found that over 80 big brands, their supply chains tainted by slave labor. I would also invite you to visit Call to Action and Forced Labor campaign, and you will find out a lot of detailed information also on what individuals can do. I would say, first of all, join Stop Uyghur Genocide campaign, and we have many different campaigns. In order to stop genocide, what individuals can do. For example, now we have the VW campaign and also Olympic campaign, genocide game. We are calling genocide game, and also boycott China, especially the goods that is made by slave labor, forced labor. So people needed to be more aware, to look at the label and check whether you are, by spending your money, whether you are actually helping the CCP in its suppression. So we have campaigns always scheduled in like certain few months. We lead one campaign and then move on to the second. So follow me on Twitter, on Facebook, and if you really want to make a difference, you just join the campaign that we are leading at the moment. And internationally, in France, in Germany, in many other countries, and also in the USA, a lot more activities now compared to a year ago. So it is not enough, but there are activities, there are movements against the CCP, and is happening. And the Chinese government is really paranoid. So they have been very actively spreading its propaganda, trying to, make it look like that people like myself and all the survivors, what they said is a lie. It's because of the US or the Western governments are not happy for China to become the superpower. That's why they are making up lies against China. So this is another battle. I would like you and help us to fight this disinformation, and most importantly, to educate our Muslim brothers and sisters who are living in Muslim countries, because we didn't see any kind of condemnation from the Muslim majority states. And I think that can be our task. It's very, very important that, okay, if the government, because of the trade or the dependency or other agreements, but the people, people should be able to join the movement and call their government to act.
Thank you, Jazakallah khair for that. I definitely think that there is value in lobbying our government, like you said, and also there's a lot of value in being more mindful about the things that we consume. So I think one famous brand, Nike, created the Nike hijab, which people are like, it's amazing, it's empowering Muslims, but it was actually created by Muslim women and men in labor camps. So I think it's a lot of times we get sucked in and we kind of don't acknowledge that a lot of the things that we buy also play into this like bigger system of oppression. A lot of the things that you've mentioned, I've linked in the chat, so you can see a few of those court cases. You can see a lot of the campaigns that you've mentioned and your Twitter account for those who want to. So my second question is in regards to, you mentioned the Tiananmen Square activism, and you've mentioned how when you came back to calling your family a few years ago, you were unable to continue communication with them. How do you think the firewall of China and just kind of shutting down communication, Chinese people to the rest of the world, how do you think that's affected it, the Uyghur population? And how do you feel it's managed to keep what's been happening in East Turkestan kind of a secret to the rest of the world?
Yeah, when there is kind of big crackdown that happened, always they had this internet blackout in the past, especially in 2009. For 1 year, we couldn't reach out to anyone. It lasted about a year, and then it became normal. So in the beginning, we thought maybe this is just a kind of another new wave of crackdown which will last several months, and then we will get back to normal again. At least we'll hear loved one's voice at least. But it's been extremely difficult. Now I can't bring myself to even think about my sisters and my brothers and what happened to them. It's just very difficult. I know many of my friends and many activists, they learned that when they managed to got news is always quite bad. Some they had like over 20 members of extended family, sisters and brothers and all uncles and all taken away. And I know there's one family in Turkey that they had all in one street. It was also like a big families, and it said anyone over 14 were detained. So her family, anyone over 14, including her elderly parents, all being taken away. So this is a kind of situation, but people still manage to get kind of information through other people, or although the Chinese government used this very high-tech surveillance system to track and successfully controlling the Uyghurs, and so they dare not to call abroad, because your phone, for Uyghurs, every Uyghur, they must have this spyware installed in their phone. If they didn't install that, they would be detained. And that spyware that can track every movement, every message, that's why they're not to call. And also the landline also connected to the Public Security Bureau. So and also because in 2016 they built largest biodata, voice recognition, blood samples, and everything that is all linked to the ID card. So each person, whenever you travel, you just go out from your house until you come back, all your movement is recorded automatically, and even your phone calls and landline or your mobile phone. Basically, they're living in this kind of prison. And it has been so successful. The control has been very successful. But in the meantime, the high tech, the same high tech that managed to use satellite images to detect the concentration camps that the CCP never, I think, imagined that the world would know. Most of these camps, which can hold like 30,000-40,000 people, are located in the mountains, in hills, or in Gobi, in a very remote regions. But satellite image gave us that very clear picture of those are the prisons, largest prisons on earth, that they're holding the Uyghurs. And also the leaked documents, as I mentioned. Also Chinese state-owned documents, when they notice, and when they now they are start to not posting any information, because they realize there are experts can read between the line of their own documents. And then, for example, Dr. Adrian Zenz, his study on forced sterilization and birth control, he studied the two most Uyghur populated region, the own open data, and he came to conclusion that the birth rate dropped 80% because of this IUD and the forced sterilization. And also I have spoken to about 9-10 survivors. Their accounts are so similar, exactly so similar. They were held in various different camps in different, quite far away from one region to another, because East Turkestan is about 6 times as big as the UK. So from the east to the west to the north and south, but you can come to a conclusion that the camp system, actually, they follow a certain rule, regardless of its locations. So even when we say rape is systematic. So we have 2 camp former camp teacher survivors, one now living in Netherlands, one is in Sweden. And Sairago Southby, who is Kazakh, her book called The Key Witness, I will share that as well. And I would also encourage people to buy, originally written in German. And I think it will be available this month in English.
Thank you. Yeah, I definitely think that there's a lot that we need to consider when we look at this situation. And we do really need to educate ourselves in what's happening around the world to the Uyghur people. So my next question is, you've spoken about kind of the mass internment, the use of contraceptives and abortion, and all these kind of huge ways of controlling the Uyghur population in East Turkestan. How do you think that's affected the culture? And like, has it erased your identity, do you think?
The very aim of the Chinese government is, as I mentioned earlier, is to assimilate completely, make the, they call the Hanize, basically become Han Chinese for all the ethnic groups to become, so don't tolerate people who have different culture, different religion, and different language. So now the Uyghur language is banned in schools, although, under the autonomous constitution that the Uyghurs had, the Uyghur language comes first. So, and culturally as well, there are, during this period in these camps, and several of the camp survivors, they said that when they been through training or the teaching, and everyone, before they leave the class, the teacher asked that, do you love China? Do you love Mandarin? Are you going to give up speaking your language? Do you believe in God? If you say you still believe in God, you're not allowed to leave the class, or you are taken to torture room. This is the kind of the extent of the oppression that is happening. And also we learned that the officials during this Ramadan, not just this Ramadan, even when I was there in 1999, because after 1997, the kind of paranoia against Islam was already developing at the time, the crackdown on religion. And as teacher, I was told that I must watch to see if any students fasting. And even the male teachers was sent to stand outside the mosque on Fridays to catch any students go to Friday prayers. So this was a long history now, but obviously now I cannot imagine how they are treating the Muslims. And I know one Uyghur lady who is married to a Pakistani man, and she is now in the US, Zumrat Dawood, and she said that when she was during her detention, and that's what happened, and every time she had to say no when please forgive me. And also she was forcefully sterilized. And I know another camp teacher was also forcefully sterilized, who was 50 years of age. She only had one daughter, and she even promised, she said, look, I passed already childbearing age. Please don't do this to me. And they said, if you want to travel abroad, that one of the conditions for you to travel is you have to agree to be sterilized. So it's unimaginable, the cruelty and how they're taking away children, separating from families. I met many Uyghur families in Turkey. That one lady, 4 children, she doesn't know what happened to them. When she traveled to Turkey in order to save her youngest baby, and she thought that after giving birth to the last one, then go back to reunite with them or bring them to Turkey. And then soon after she gave birth, this mass arrest started, and she couldn't go back. And her children, or initially her parents were looking after them. Then later police came and took them away. And her parents were also locked up in camps. And she basically don't know what happened to her children. And we have thousands of families in Turkey. So the reason I'm keep saying this, because a lot of people, especially our Muslim brothers and sisters, asked me, is it true? Is it true? Because they have been reading a lot from the Chinese propaganda material, or today on YouTube, again, also there's one imam, the so-called imam is telling how the Uyghurs have a great life and a freedom of religion in East Turkestan. Obviously, when the CCP come to them and pointing the gun back their head, or threatening them that the entire family will go to prison, or women be raped or sterilized, and people are just terrified. They do what they ask them to do. So now a lot of people started to questioning since the CCP propaganda, especially for the last 2 months after the BBC that gang rape report. The Chinese government completely denied, holding Tursunay Ziauddin, who bravely came forward, shared her story, holding her picture and saying that she is a liar.
Again, I think it's a real shame that members of our own community deny such atrocities happening every single day. And again, we really appreciate you coming here to speak about it so bravely. You spoke about a lot of the victims and how there are like thousands of them in Turkey and all around the world who've escaped. And like you said, some of them would say that they're now a former shell of themselves. How do we support those victims who've managed to survive these incredible atrocities? And how do we support them in like reintegrating in their life and reassimilating into their culture?
Thank you. That's a great question. For example, the TARIM network, TARIM, I will share the link with you. They're also raising money for protecting Uyghur language. So they are making like a new curriculum for the exile community in order for them to continue to keep our language, because there is no good curriculum that is available in Uyghur language that is, for the exile communities. So there's very young group of Uyghurs are making this happen. And so there are fundraising and many other fundraising about the mental health, that, the psychological support. There are, if you visit Launch Good, there are several different platforms that, and also you can start something to support as well. So, not only that, but also people who have this kind of skills who would like to volunteer, and then you can also contact World Uyghur Congress or myself, or Stop Uyghur Genocide. We can connect you to the people who are already working to support them, so you can take part in their programs and support them.
Thank you. I've linked in the chat the TARIM network, so people can check it out if they'd like to. Another question is, you mentioned the mass surveillance was a way of controlling Uyghur people. Should we hold tech companies accountable because they do profit from these mass surveillance systems and AI systems that control the Uyghur population?
Absolutely, absolutely. When Huawei, when this government announced that they allow Huawei, I was one of 2 claimants to take legal action against Huawei. But luckily, we didn't go that far. But government decided not to go ahead with the contract, because all these majority tech companies, one way or the other, facilitating this technology and in arresting, in monitoring, and the Uyghurs, so restricting their liberty. And I would also recommend you to read, if you just put mass surveillance in Xinjiang or mass surveillance Uyghur, the list of the technologies, it will come up. And US already blacklisted many, I believe around 30. So we need to be aware of those. We want this government also do the same, you know, blacklisting and kicking out those companies. So we don't want them. Also, the companies here in this country, whether they are also linked to supporting some high-tech companies inside China. So all this, we have to be very vigilant. And I would also ask you not to buy Huawei phone, boycott Huawei completely, completely, because Huawei is, although the Chinese government claim that Huawei is a private company, it is not private company. The Public Security Bureau is behind the Huawei, and is all its technology is a state-sponsored, state invested huge amount of money for Huawei. And the so-called Safe City project, if you put Safe City project Xinjiang, you will also find a lot of articles how Huawei you know, bragged about its Safe City project in East Turkestan. So Safe City means police state. So using the technology to track and also the without blind spot, so you don't have any privacy. You wouldn't believe every Uyghur family, they all have barcoded now. So if you have extra person suddenly visit your home, that police can come and check who is that person walked into your house. This control is to this kind of extreme, this kind of extreme at the moment. And therefore, you know, we need millions and millions of people to support, to raise the voice, to try to stop this genocide.
Yeah, I definitely think that we should really consider how we consume and how we spend our money, and not only just educate ourselves in the situation that's happening in East Turkestan, but also how we contribute to it by using our finances. And that's one thing we can control. Not only that, we should also lobby our governments. Final thing is, there's 1 minute before the azan. Do you want to share your final thoughts on this?
Thank you so much for this evening's event. And so if you really want to help, to support, and visit Stop Uyghur Genocide, World Uyghur Congress, follow me, and just, you know, do whatever you can in whatever way to support and Stop Uyghur Genocide campaign. And it's very, very difficult during now Ramadan. We could pray, we could, you know, we could fast, and our brothers and sisters over there, they don't have that luxury. And therefore, I would ask you to pray for them. So remember Uyghurs in your prayers.
Jazakallah khair, Rahima. We really appreciate your time. We really appreciate your testimony and your discussion, educating us. But the azan has just come right now.
اللهم إني لك صمت وبك آمنت وعلى رزقك أفطرت ذهب الظمأ وابتلت العروق وثبت الأجر إن شاء الله.
الله
أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله اللهم رب هذه الدعوة التامة والصلاة القائمة آت محمدا الوسيلة والفضيلة وابعثه مقاما محمودا الذي وعدته إنك لا تخلف الميعاد
Huda, you're muted.
We still can't hear you.
Okay, assalamu alaikum everyone. I think Huda has some technical issues. We just wanted to thank our speaker and Islam channel for being our media partner. And we hope to see you inshallah tomorrow. So thank you very much and have a good evening and enjoy maybe Laylatul Qadr, we don't know. Inshallah. Yalla, assalamu alaikum everyone.